Welcome to the Rum Revival. My name's Arminder, and we've got one more week until the end of the year, and I will be doing a best of 2024 video where I announce my favorite rums of the year in a number of different categories. But for today, I want to talk about 4 of those categories and share with you what are some of my contenders in those categories. So we're primarily going to talk about aged rums in this video. Specifically, the categories are aged 5 years or less and aged over 5 years. And then at the end, I'll also dive into the contenders for Bottler of the Year and Producer of the Year. Let's go. Now let's start off with rums aged 5 years or less, and let's start off with the 2 new releases from Hampden Estate. We've got the Pagos and the Great House 2024. Now the Pagos came out really early in the year. The Great House came out just like, what, a month or 2 ago now? The Pagos is HLCF, that's the mark, which is essentially rum fire, and it's aged just a handful of years, maybe 2 or 3 at most, in ex-sherry casks, and it's bottled at 52% ABV, and this thing is just an absolute delight. This might be, outside of the Hampden 8-year, the most approachable rum that they make. There is lots of like lovely raisins and figs here, red berries, a little bit of cinnamon syrup, a lot less of the acidity that you find in many of other Hampden rums, and this is also spectacular in a rum old fashioned. Now the Great House, the 2024 edition here, is a blend of a number of different marks, aged mostly between 3 to 5 years. A lot of like charred sweet pineapple. There's a dried golden raisin note, some rich concentrated sweet, like, you know, dried fruit overall, like fruit leather, and it's punctuated by like this a light amount of acid and a little note of cough syrup. And you know, I just realized as I was kind of saying that both of these have a little bit of like a raisin kind of note, and that's kind of maybe my jam. Is that like a pun? Maybe. That's dumb. Also, this makes for one absolutely stunning Mai Tai. It's an expensive Mai Tai, but man, they're so good. From Rum Jam, the Epice Creoles, cane juice, calm distilled rum, aged I think around 3 years in a combination of French and American oak, and doing all that aging really brings out these warm baking spice flavors and aromas I think are fantastic. They're really great neat, but I think they're really a shine in cocktails, in a rum old fashioned, in some tiki drinks. I think I made a 3 dots and a dash with this, and I just thought it was fantastic. Just really excited to see Rum Jam put out something with a lot more of a kind of out there flavor profile, a little more outside of kind of what they normally do. I think it's really interesting, so really great. Glad to have this in my collection. Then from Down Island Spirits, we've got their Ghana release, the 2020. Single cast release, cane juice from Ghana, pot distilled, aged 4 years, and I don't know, let's just say ex-bourbon. Yes, it says it right there. This is just great. Lots of sugarcane notes, sugarcane sweetness, really nice underripe green banana note that I love. Been really impressed. Definitely in the running for one of my favorite single cast releases of the year as well. Next up, we have 2 rums from Alambique Serrano. We have blend number 5, the El Boxador, and then blend number 6, Otoño. Both really impressed with, and they are kind of sort of similar. The blend number 5 is exclusive to a prize fighter bottle shop out in Emeryville, California, and here in the Bay Area. It's a blend of 2 casks, one of which is a pot still rum that was aged 19 months in New French oak, and then the calm still rum is aged 27 months in a first fill ex-bourbon cask, and it's bottled at 65.9% ABV. This is something like a mix of the notes of cardamom and clove meets like a, I don't know, like a ginger molasses cookie. There's some richness, there's a lot of baking spices, and there's a lot of complexity and layers while also in a way being very comforting, and I think it's like perfect for the cold or the fall and winter seasons. Really, I drank a lot of this around Thanksgiving, and another rum that I drank a lot of around Thanksgiving was blend number 6. This is a blend of 3 different rums, all of which are Cressel Calm Still rums. 2 of those rums were aged 29 months in ex-bourbon, and then they were then aged further in American oak barrels and French oak barrels. And then the 3rd rum here is unaged Cressel Calm Still rum to add a little bit of brightness, I guess. Bottled at 55.8% ABV. This is much more available. This is kind of nationwide. There's 740 bottles, which still not a lot, but a lot more than this one here. Easier to come by. This has an amazing aroma, a lot of like cardamom and rosewater. And then on the palate, it actually is very similar to blend 5, though much drier, less kind of rich, leans in that cardamom clove direction, but also leans a little bit in that kind of rosewater with a little accent of orange peel. Honestly, you could go with either one, and I think you'd be a really happy camper. Next up, we have a rum from Raising Glasses. This is the Ethereal. This is a 3-year-old rum from Madeira out in the Atlantic Ocean. This is a blend, I believe, of a couple of different 3-year-old rums that were aged in French oak Madeira casks. It's bottled at 60.4% ABV. This is, I think, a really delightful rum. It is a kind of savory kind of rum. You get a lot of like rhubarb notes on this, and rhubarb is not a thing I get a lot of in rum. Frankly, it's not a thing I get a lot of anywhere. I don't know if I've actually eaten rhubarb straight. I feel like I've, well, probably had it in like a, I don't know, like a pie, but outside of that, I'm not like eating rhubarb. But this, for someone who doesn't know a lot about rhubarb, this totally reminded me of it. And I just thought it was really nice, delightful, definitely on the vegetal side of things, but that barrel aging adds a little bit of like almond, a little bit of like a cherry kind of note. And again, another one that I really enjoyed. I immediately thought of actually when trying to decide, you know, what were the rums I was going to have during Thanksgiving. One of the first ones that came to mind was this one because of that rhubarb note, that almond note, that vegetal note. I just thought it would pair really well with the meal, and I got to tell you, it really did. Now, also from Raising Glasses is this rum right here. This is a sample that was sent to me of a rum that has only just sort of released. It's the Filumena. This is a Canadian rum from Romero Distillery. It's I don't think it's fully aged in sherry cask, but in total it's 4 years of aging, but I think it was finished in a sherry cask, about at 58.1% ABV. They were nice enough to give me a sample. I tried it, I thought it was great. I really liked it. There's a lot of dried fruit, fig, dates kind of thing. I want to drink a lot more. In fact, I'm hoping to grab my hands on a bottle. I think it's going to be available any day now. I'm totally going to get my hands on it because I thought there was a lot of interesting notes there. And it did not taste, in my opinion, like a sherry bomb, which I know for some people are concerned about that kind of stuff, but intrigued to really try a really high quality rum from Canada, which I'd never really had any, I think. So yeah, I'm excited to try more of that. All right, so those were some of, if not all of the rums that I'm considering in terms of rums aged 5 years or less. But let's move on to rums aged over 5 years, and let's start off with Foursquare Equipoise. This is a molasses-based pot calm still rum, aged, I believe, 14 years, bottled at 61% ABV. In terms of aging, some of the rums here were aged in ex-bourbon, some of them in ex-calvados, and some maybe in a blend of both. And this thing is just delightful. As you can see here, I've had a lot of it. In fact, I've only had it now for, let's say, 3 months, maybe a little more than that. And I've bought, you know, a good amount of ECS releases over the years, but I have never drank one as quickly as this one. You know, in fact, most of them that are sitting here I've had for 1, 3, 4, 5 years, and I'm maybe at most halfway through. But this one was different for me. This one, it really clicked for me. I think for me, once I started adding water, that's when it really kind of really worked for me. A lot of nutmeg, a lot of clove, a lot of dried fruit, vanilla caramels, and there was a good amount of like plum and raisin, just everything I wanted in this time of the year, you know, in terms of flavors. And yeah, really that will be high up on my list of like personal favorite ECS releases, and definitely in the running for this particular category. Now the next one is a rum I've already spoken about in the last couple of weeks. It's the Down Island Spirits Jamaica HD 2014 release. This is from Hampden Estate. It's their Diamond H mark, which is one of their higher ester marks. It's aged 10 years, some combination of tropical, some combination of continental, and this is one of the more memorable Jamaican rums I've had this year and maybe in the last good amount of years, frankly. What I love about this is it has all those big, bold, intense, acidic, sharp pineapple notes that you'd expect from a Hampden, but then you kind of, on the back end, on the finish, has this really nice kind of burnt caramel note from the aging that just really helps kind of soften the experience from all that intensity up front. And I like that, because the other way around, I don't know if I would lock onto it and be as big of a fan of it as I am, but by having that nice kind of burnt caramel note on the back end, I just want to immediately have another sip and another and another. And yeah, and even though I want to, I'm taking my time with it because, again, it is a single cast release. Pretty sure this is all sold out because it came out, I think, around mid this year. So it's not going to be easy to get another one of these. So taking my time with it. But every time I have a drink from there, I'm like, man, this is so good. And makes for it also a hell of a Mai Tai. Next up is El Dorado High Ester Blend. I know this is probably a rum that a lot of people are big fans of. This is their LBI DHE mark. It's bottled at 57% ABV. And it tells you the year of distillation, which is 2012, but it doesn't tell you how old it is. It came out this year, so I think we can assume it's somewhere between 11-ish or 12-ish years of age, but they don't explicitly say that here. But this is the version, in my opinion, of El Dorado 15 that I always wanted, right? A lot higher proof, a lot more character, a lot more personality, but some of the flavor notes are sort of similar. A lot of lush dark chocolate, some burnt caramels. There's that slightly kind of smoky note that is kind of intermingled with a little bit of creamy coffee. There's a touch, small touch of like acidity and minerality that I think kind of cuts through all of that. Just so much complexity, especially for like an El Dorado rum. And I'm really impressed that they put something like this out, and also makes for a hell of a Mai Tai. Next up is Shakara 12-year. Again, I've already spoken about this in the last couple of weeks, but fantastic, 12 years old from Thailand, bottled at 45.7% ABV, super drinkable, great value. It's like $50. Sometimes you can find it as low as like $42, $43. Great notes of the salted caramel, some figs, some cherry colas. Familiar notes, some rummy notes, but it's also accented by a little bit of like something that's sort of like absinthe, not quite exactly like absinthe, but sort of in that space. And so it just has a lot of character. I love it neat, but also makes for not a fantastic Mai Tai, though it might, I haven't tried it, but it makes for a lovely rum old fashioned. Next up, we've got the Flag Series releases from this year from Lemestan and Velier. We've got the Cambodia, which is an 8-year-old rum, bottled at 48.7% ABV, and the Fiji, which is 12 years old. The Fiji has a little bit of like medicinal, industrial patrol notes, almost smoky, but not really. There's this really interesting Play-Doh note, a little bit of hairspray, a lot of really interesting floral notes. The Cambodia has also some floral notes, herbal potpourri kind of notes. There is some caramel here and some baking spices, so it's a little bit more familiar than this one is. This has a little bit of tea notes, but what I like is that even though it's familiar and sort of rummy, it also though ultimately finishes sort of dry, making me want to have like another sip. And yeah, I kind of go back and forth on which one I like more, but I don't know. I'm going to keep on drinking these to ultimately determine that. Could go either way. All right, let's now briefly talk about some rums that I only had samples of, but that really impressed me. And we'll, of course, start off with the Holmes Cay Infinity. I've already talked about it on the channel recently, but I think it's rums from, I don't know, like 7 different countries, 13 different distilleries. The youngest rum in here is 20 years old. The oldest was 50 years old. Cane juice, molasses, all of it. Yeah, also figs and dates on this, if I remember correctly. Vanilla caramels. There were some tropical fruits. There was industrial notes. There was leather. There was tobacco. It had it all, folks. It was almost like if it was an infinity of flavors. Would have loved to have more of this to really kind of spend some time with it, but that would have been an expensive proposition. So yeah, it didn't happen. Another sample I had was from Raising Glasses, their Jablesse or Jablesse. This is Trinidad rum, 21-year-old single cask release, 61.4% ABV. This, I was really impressed. Just from this one little tiny sample, a lot of mint, mostly mint. A lot of flavors of mint, nuanced mint. Though it had like a nice chemical, dirty kind of finish, which kind of offset all that mint note. Yeah, I definitely want to get my hands on a bottle or two if I can. This definitely reminded me of the Flag Series Trinidad release from last year from Lemestan and Velier. That was my favorite rum of last year. And this, like I said, definitely plays in that space. There were some differences for sure, but I loved that rum. And this reminded me of that a lot. So there's a good chance this could be in the running, even from this little small sample, but would love to have more of it to really dive into it. So those were some of the aged rums that I've really been enjoying and I'm considering as contenders or nominees for best aged rums of the year. Now let's move on to bottler of the year. And here I'm looking at various independent bottlers and kind of seeing and trying to recognize ones that have offered up a variety of different releases throughout the year. I'm looking to see the depth in those releases, to see who tried to do and put out some unique releases or interesting releases, rums from a lot of different countries, that kind of thing. And really to kind of celebrate what they're doing. Because I think, you know, we're in a place now here in the States that we've gotten more and more independent bottlers, and they're all putting out some really great to really interesting releases. And I think that's to be commended and to be recognized and celebrated, because I want them to continue to do that, and I want more people to come into space and also do that. And you know, let's start off with Holmes Cay. Again, that Infinity was such an impressive release, such a big hyped release. Even though most people probably didn't get a chance to try it, I think, you know, just the fact that they did something like this is pretty damn awesome. And then there's the folks from Raising Glasses. I think this year they did something like 10 releases, could be more, right? And a lot of variety, right? From Grande Romes to 3-year-old Madura Rums to 21-year-old Trinidad releases, right? Love the variety, love the variation in their releases. Next up, we have Down Island Spirits. They did a handful of releases this year, but two of them, the ones we have here, the Ghana and the Jamaica HD, are two of my favorite single cask releases. So to get two spectacular rums from one independent bottler, I think that is fantastic, and looking forward to seeing what they're coming out with next year. Then, of course, Lebanon and Valley with their flag series. There's also the Jamaica. At both or all three of them were fantastic releases this year, and I think they're just continuing this trend of great rums in that flag series. And what's great about this year's releases is that they're a lot more affordable than the Ghana and the Trinidad from last year. So big ups to them. And then there's newcomer Roaming Road Spirits. They've only just been out for, let's just say, 2-3-ish months at most. This is the Panama release here, the 20-year. I have 3 more, but in total, I think they came out of the gate with like 8 or 9 releases from various countries, all with a good amount of tropical and continental aging, and I think that's pretty impressive, combined with the fact that I think they have lovely, lovely bottles. Excited to see where they go from here. Next up, we have Rolling Fork Spirits. This year, they've really done a lot of varied things, which is really cool. They continue to do the Lost Cask releases, which are long-aged single cask releases. They've done a number of really cool finishes on Foursquare rums, including the Batch 2 of the Ambarona Odyssey and their Weeded Wonder. And then we've got these two really cool kind of, in my opinion, cocktail-focused rums that I think are great. The Heart of Gold, which is a blend of Barbados and Jamaica rum, and the Wisdom of Age, which is a unique blend of Hampden marks, unaged Hampden marks, L-Rock, Sea Diamond Age, and DOK. Both of them make for some really cool, great cocktails, and it's just really cool to see them do all of these varied and unique things. Now that was the shortlist for Bottler of the Year, but let's move on to Producer of the Year. Here I'm focused on the brands and distilleries that actually make the rum themselves, and here the list is, in my mind, a little shorter because you kind of can't just have like one release. I think to qualify as like a Producer of the Year, you kind of need to have 2 or 3, high quality releases, varied releases, to show off the ability to make quality rums, but also consistent rums across the board, And I want to kind of recognize a couple of brands / distilleries, producers basically, that I think that really did that this year. Really came out with a couple of different releases that show that range. First, we have Alambique Serrano. I've already talked about these blends. They had Blend 3, Blend 4, Blend 5, Blend 6 this year. They had like 1 million single cask releases throughout the country. Then, of course, the Cartier 30, which is unaged cane juice rum at 70% ABV, that I think is spectacular. So pretty impressive range of releases with all unique, different, interesting flavor profiles. So I definitely think what Jason at Alambique Serrano and the Crassel family are doing there in Oaxaca to make these rums, I think it needs to be recognized, so that's kind of why they're on this list. And then we have Hampden Estate. I've already talked about the Pagos and the Great House, but in addition to that, this year they released the HLCF Classic, as well as the 8 marks aged 1 year collection set. Like, these are 4 big releases that I think all, as you know how I feel about these, all really great quality, and they all, even though like a lot of it is HLCF, or at least this and the HLCF Classic, they taste very different. And this is such a unique blend. And then you get the whole gamut of experience in the 8 Marks collection. I just love that variety and that kind of commitment to really showcase all of their marks in different configurations with the Great House, with different aging, with the sherry cask finish of the Pagos, and then just giving us the ability to try all those marks in the set, aged 1 year. Again, love that, right? I want all distilleries to do things like this with the rums that they make. So shout out to Hampden. Then, big ups to Rum Jam, right? They came out this year with the Atelier series, the Jardin Fruit, the Epice Creoles, which I already talked about in this video, and the Fumé Volcanique, all obviously cane juice rums that really lean heavily into the aging and finishing side of things to create really unique flavor profiles. They're all aged in different types of casks for different amounts of time. They're bottled at different ABVs, but they all kind of lean in one direction or another for really creating unique, interesting cocktails. If you want more kind of fruit forward, more spice forward, more smoke forward. And I just love that they have this in their lineup. I love their core stuff, which is great and all that at the distillery and for the brand, but this is a little more playful, and I think that's really cool, and I want to see them do more things than last year. Another one of my favorite rums was their Terroir Volcanique, and I love that rum. Again, playing a little more outside of their normal space. They kind of did that again this year, and let's see what next year holds for them now. And lastly, for Producer of the Year, we've also got Worthy Park. I mean, 3 brand new rums. Well, this is a rebrand of Rum Bar Silver, but you know what I'm trying to say. 3 new rums in their core lineup, right? So these are rums that we're going to get year in, year out. That's very exciting. Love what the Overproof does, right? Love all the flavors. And what's really exciting about what Worthy Park is doing is that this is a kind of blend of molasses and cane juice, right? You don't see a whole lot of that. And for them to lean heavily into that is super, super exciting, really cool, and exciting to see what else they do with cane juice in the future. And both of these are rock solid cocktail rums, in my opinion. This silver, I think, is one of the best low ABV but high in flavor rums you can get out there on the market right now. Trust me, this next summer, you're gonna want this to make all sorts of really crushable cocktails with. And of course, I just think they look great too on the shelf. Love the label, love the bottle. And on top of that, all these are pretty damn affordable, right? That's also to be commended, I think, as a producer, that they're able to do that, release quality, variety of releases, and they're all also affordable, right? These are all kind of somewhere in the $30 to $35 price range, right? Give or take, and I just think that's great. And so, yeah, big ups to Worthy Park, and I can't wait to see what else they do with the cane juice. All right, that's it for this week, and those are some of the producers that I'm considering for Producer of the Year and bottlers that I'm considering for Bottler of the Year. And then, of course, those are some of my favorite aged rums of the year. Now, I'm super curious to see what some of your favorite aged rums were. So let me know by leaving a comment down below. And if you want to support this channel, then check out my Patreon page. I have tons of exclusive content there that I think you might like. Catch you all next time when we'll finally get to the big end of year celebration and award show. Catch you all then. Peace.